Hey, Jules Blessed Vegan, and as always, welcome to my channel. And for those of you who are new, I know you can benefit. I had a really great dinner tonight. It's one of my favorites, seriously. I just got 2 really big red bell peppers, right? And then I took some rainbow baby bell peppers and chopped them up. Cucumber, chopped it up. Shredded some carrot, which was great. Chopped up, don't tell me, more than that. Well, tomato, chopped up some little tomatoes, like those little heirloom cherry tomatoes. And then used half of an avocado and just made it into a fantastic, you know, what would it be called? What would that be called? Well, a filling. I used it as a filling. Anyway, I covered the whole thing with avocado. I put in some fun spices. I cut those big bell peppers in half and stuffed them and ate them up. It's delicious, so delicious. Makes me wonder why I ever have cooked food of any kind, honestly. Because earlier I had had some delicious oranges with celery. It was fabulous. And I also had some bananas with romaine and chia and cinnamon. And like all of that is so vibrant and delicious, right? Every cell in my body is like, oh, here comes the nourishment. Here comes the micro, you know, macro, micros, everything, like just like so happy. It makes me wonder why I ever have cooked food. And I rarely do, believe me, I rarely do. I mean, I've been just going raw for a really long time, but I would say about 3 times out of about 150 meals, I chose to have a cooked element. And I just think, why? You know, it just really doesn't serve me. It doesn't really make much of a difference in terms of like taste or being satiated. In fact, I'm less satiated because inevitably when I have a cooked component, I get less. And I am a more girl, okay? So, I don't know, I guess it's just a reminder that it just doesn't really do anything for me at all. I've been really steadfast in not wanting to eat out, duh. I mean, COVID or not, I can get better food at home that I can trust and prepare for myself and a better quantity, right? So I've been declining on that, much to the dismay of family members who are like, you're no fun anymore. You used to be my binge buddy. You never even binge anymore. I think the more you eat properly, the less you just even feel like it. Like the compulsive desire is largely removed. It really is. And even I'm able to parent myself and say, no. I mean, it's just not going to satisfy. It's just not good. I mean, that conversation comes up all the time. That's just not where I'm at. I'm just not going to do it. You know, I mean, in desperation, and I credit some of this truly, of course, to the 12-step program and calling on my higher power, which for me is the God of the universe. But to have courage in that moment, to just say that I know that none is ever enough when it comes to processed, poisonous, standard American diet, especially packaged sweets of any kind, that none will ever be enough. You know, much like the Coke addict, the cigarette smoker, the alcoholic, unfortunately, it's just so odd. You know, the body resists at first. I mean, you're going to cough up a lung. It's going to be so terrible when you first try a cigarette. Your throat's going to burn and you're going to gag and probably vomit the next morning when you first do alcohol. Even far worse with any harder drugs. But sadly, if you dare to approach it again, the body is so smart and so loving that he immediately tries to get its metaphorical head around what to do with it. You know, it's super efficient. It can take anything, the plastic we put in it, the food-like products we put in our body, and figure out how to break it down, figure out where to store it, lovingly storing the fat in pockets called cellulite, right? doing whatever it can to sustain the body, to honor the choices that we make. I mean, how loving. It's terrible. It doesn't serve us, but how blessed are we, especially when you're on the other side of all those addictions and you realize you lived long enough to get through it and to make a better choice. Anyway, yeah, such a blessing to be able to make better decisions. Many people are not as fortunate. If you don't think that people die as a result of their eating choices, come on. I mean, whether it's lack of food, certainly people are still dying of anorexia, burning out their esophagus from bulimia, dying of obesity-related diseases from the obesity. Come on. All the heart conditions. And now in the COVID, it's literally on the list of high-risk people because of obesity. Anyway, I just wanted to share that. At the same time, I have been sharing 20 days of traps that all humans fall into at some time in their life. This one is the trap of indecision. Oh, are you kidding me? I kind of majored in it. I mean, it's really interesting. Some things are very immediate. I've got clarity right away. But depending on the risk that I've determined in my mind, it takes me much longer to commit or make a decision to something in fear of failing, right? And yet in not making that decision, guaranteeing that I will fail. It's the irony of all time. So this is a trap of indecision. One of the markers of adulthood is that we come to realize that the decisions we make can either be direct or indirect. I think of that as like sinning, right? You can lie directly or you can lie by omission, right? Either way, same result, it's a lie. So a direct decision is when we decide proactively to move in one direction or another. An indirect decision is when we decide by failing to decide. In other words, we decide by default. Oh, tick-tock, right? The clock is always running out, and life will decide for us if we don't proactively decide. So if someone asks you if you'd like to have an ice cream sundae, you can respond in one of three ways. Who can believe it? One of three ways. Yes, I'd like one, thanks. Or no, I wouldn't care for one, thanks. Or, you know, I really can't decide one way or the other. But of course, the second and third decisions result in the same thing. No ice cream sundae. We delude ourselves when we think that we can put a decision indefinitely, put off a decision indefinitely, and somehow avoid the unpleasantness and risk of deciding, but we can't. Because again, life is going to decide for us. If we don't decide whether or not to marry, you indirectly decide to remain single. If you can't decide whether or not to take a particular job, you indirectly decide not to take it. We don't have the luxury of only deciding when we want to. To not decide is to decide for the opposite thing. So, do your best to avoid the trap of indecision. Indecision will not serve you. Just make the best decision you can make and accept the consequences, good or bad. And making the best decision is a hyperlink. This is why I appreciate the words of Amelia Earhart. God bless her 1,000 times, and whatever happened, right? The rest is mere, of Amelia Earhart, she said, the most difficult thing is the decision to act. The rest is merely tenacity. So like adjusting to the decision you made. So go ahead and make a decision. If you make a bad decision, see trap number 7. Oh, let's get back to what trap 7 was. I forgot. It was only yesterday. Oh yeah, the trap of not learning from experience. Fair enough. Fair enough. So what do you think about that, you guys? I do struggle with indecision, but I've certainly been on the planet long enough to realize that me not proactively making a choice allows life to make that choice for me, and then I may not always agree with the direction that that went in. So again, better to make your best choice with the information you have, take the risk, it may turn out great, and otherwise deal with the consequence. But at least you are empowered by acting on it, right? So interesting. All right, my friends, as always, thank you for stopping by. Thank you for letting me share. Like if you like, join us if you haven't subscribed. Let me know in the comments below how I may support you. Can you relate it all to this topic? And until we talk again, best of all, know that proactively making a decision is your right and your ability if you act on it, and that you're blessed.